That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, I got off the phone moments ago with Eric Duhem, the Conservative Party leader here, talking about the rash of bills. I know we talked about this yesterday that I have to kind of go through. He actually says he'd like to see them stay around for one more week, right? That would be June 19th. You think there's a chance that'll happen?
Why prolong the agony, for crying out loud? I mean, when you look at this, it was a fascinating interview you had with him as well, because this is not, when you first heard about his lone MNA opposing this proposed bill, it was almost like a kind of libertarian argument. You don't automatically ban something, and it turns out, well, he's contending the government never did its homework to start with on this bill. But you know what? If you look at the rest of what's going on, okay, what they're trying to ram through in the remaining 4 days of work left on the schedule of the Legislative Assembly. They're not exactly covering themselves in glory. I don't think any of our listeners, I don't think anyone in Quebec is going, oh, gee, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I want this thing to go through, because you've got Simon Jolin Barrett's constitution that he basically spent building in his garage on the weekends, right? And this thing is completely off the radar. It's not going to go through. Another amendment to Bill 101 just to make life more difficult for Anglos in Quebec, which now we're hearing the Liberals will vote against. That if it ever comes to a vote, but that's what we're hearing today. Okay, I'm not sure the Liberal position will be the same on Monday, but right now they're saying they'll vote against it. And even Charles Mignard is telling Radcamp that the only reason that the government is trying to ram all this stuff through is they want to get more exposure. They want to get more airtime in time for the election. Because I'm very sorry. I know we have this idea that there's going to be a summer lull. There ain't going to be no summer lull, okay? It's going to be campaigning nonstop all the time. But I dispute Mr. Mignard's assessment simply because, as I say, what in the hell do you have there that you want to show off, that you want to be proud of? A lot of this stuff is nothing more than proof of how this government has wasted our time for the past 8 years, wasted our time, wasted our money, wasted our hopes, wasted our energy. And now, as we approach an election, we have no idea, at least I don't, as to whether anybody who's going to run against them is going to be any better. I mean, I look at, the fundamental question, the old Reaganist question, ask yourself, are you any better off now than you were 8 years ago? And I'm sure our listeners would probably it would be unanimous no. But the thing is, if you recast the question and say, well, what other party do you think would make things better? I'd be very surprised if somebody could turn around and genuinely say, you know what? These guys are going to knock it out of the park. I'm glad I'm going to vote for these guys and whatever. And in fact, we're looking at just more uncertainty, right? We have yet to really get caught in the morass of a sovereignty referendum, the threat of a sovereignty referendum on the part of the PQ, which for the time being seems to be the government in waiting. It really is discouraging and depressing. And if nothing else, I would hope that given the amount of coverage that is absolutely being showered down on this legislative logjam, at least Quebecers will figure out just how much time their politicians have spent walking into walls and really not getting a whole hell of a lot done.
To your point, maybe I'm a bit more hopeful than you are, right? I mean, you're right. We're not hearing a lot from any of the other parties with respect to something you go, wow, that's really what I'm hoping one of the parties would bring forward. But then I always keep hearing everyone say, well, it's that time of the year, even though there's an election in October, no one's really paying attention that much, and it's going to be worse as we head into the summer. I like to think in my mind, and tell me what you think, that maybe they're just holding back their powder here until such time as the campaign really gets started and then bombard us with some real ideas and real plans.
I would respectfully submit that, those powder kegs are empty. That they are out of ideas, that they realize that they're handcuffed, that they're handcuffed by their own ideology. And I really think that we are making a mistake when we say that, it's the summer and people won't pay attention. I think that the issues that are facing Quebecers right now, and Canadians in general, don't take the summer off. And I think that people are going to look at the whole issue of affordability, which I'm sorry, what was that affordability bill that I saw, Aaron, and get jammed in those last 4 days? Because I must have missed that one. I must have missed any economic bill, any economic reform. Lots of identity, lots of grandstanding, lots of ideological crap. But in terms of nuts and bolts legislation to make, if not necessarily our lives better, at least make it easier Well, no, unless you count those ridiculous, that $50 tax cut that Madame Clochette is promising us, presuming she gets elected as premier in October. But the rest of it, look, and I got to tell you, maybe the real surprise in October is not going to be, well, who pulls a rabbit out of their hat or who takes the lead or whatever. I really wonder, and because I can think of a lot of reasons why, current or former Liberal supporters would just say, I'm staying home, okay? I'm really wondering how many Quebecers will actually be inspired to head out to the polls, given the really shabby selection of wares, if I can use that expression, that each of the parties is offering. It really is a sad time for Quebec politics. There's no vision, even a vision we don't like, Aaron. We don't even have that. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's everybody's safe and spongy, and you know what? It's like every politician's the same, except they're wearing maybe a different, sweater during each interview. And we're still part of Canada. We're still facing economic challenges. We still have a lunatic running the U.S. A lot of challenges, and quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not seeing anybody up in Quebec City who inspires me with confidence and makes me think, well, this will be a great idea. I'm so happy this person will be premier in October because maybe things will get better. I'm not getting that reading at all. And quite frankly, Aaron, it discourages and scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, that is pretty depressing. And you have no hope that someone's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat here.
All the rabbits are dead, Aaron.
All right. Well, there you go. I'm only hoping that something does change, Jim. I know it's pretty grim, and you're right. I agree with you to the point now. We're not hearing anything now, at least not yet. But as I said, I'm more of an optimist. I'm hoping something will happen, and once this campaign really gets into it, we'll see. We'll judge then. By the way, I will point out, Jim, did you hear Eric when I asked Eric Duhem on this Bill 101 amendment to vocational classes in adult ed? He actually said they would vote against this as well if it does come up.
Well, you know what? I'll wait and see if that actually happens. His one MNA. Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see what happens because honestly, we have seen so many flip-flops from the Liberals, so many flip-flops from Eric Duhem. I'm sorry. It's very difficult for me to say, wow, that's. I'm really looking forward to that because you know what? I'm not entirely sure any of it's going to happen.
All right. You also want to mention here about Quebec's latest crime wave. What are you referring to here?
Well, I'm referring to something that's pretty remarkable, actually. I mean, maybe it's happened and I missed it in the past 4 decades that I've been in this line of work. Yann Lafrenière is the Minister of Public Security in Quebec. And he put a post up on Twitter this morning. In the wake of all these headlines in La Presse and the Journal and in the Gazette about all the crime that's been going on. And we've had a crazy week for crime. 3 murders in 24 hours, a stabbing at the Walmart, today's arson attempt at the synagogue in Westmount. And he says even though these issues are not related, the situation remains worrisome. And this is the part I find extraordinary. He says he spoke to the director of the Montreal Police Department this morning, and he said, he confirmed his officers are visible on the ground. They're doing their jobs. That they picked up 4 suspects very quickly in the after the Walmart stabbing. The suspect in the synagogue arson was picked up very, very quickly, and it's almost as if Yann Lafrenière, I mean, part of me said, well, he's a politician. There's an election coming up, and he wants to make sure that the government looks like it's doing its job. But on the other hand, we have to remember, Yann Lafrenière wasn't only a former Montreal police officer. He was the face and voice of their communications department, and he included all the headlines that have been coming out in the past 48 hours. And it's almost as if maybe he's sending a message, not just to me and to anyone who saw the tweet, but also perhaps to the administration of Montreal that, you know what, I'm paying attention to this. I'm watching these headlines, and when he says in the first paragraph, it doesn't matter what the explanations he's getting further down, when he says in the first paragraph that the situation remains troublesome, as far as I'm concerned, that's a very clear message from a former cop saying, I'm keeping an eye on what's going on in there because there is a lot of stuff that's going down. Personally, you can have all kinds of explanations for this. The part I found the most shocking, actually, is the fact that when concerning the Walmart stabbing, that they arrested 4 suspects, all of whom were aged 15. That just gobsmacked me.
And we're seeing more and more of that, right? Talk about some of the extortion. I mean, we're 15, 16-year-olds, some even younger than that. I mean, that's very, very concerning.
Yeah, and it doesn't bode well for the
Yeah.
future, because there's absolutely nothing to suggest that this is going to change in any way, shape, or form. But listen, once again, as I say, it's just quite remarkable that a cabinet minister and former police officer would take the time to gather up all these headlines that have sort of like dropped on us like a plague from heaven in the past 48 hours, and say, I'm watching this. Trust us. Things are going to get better. We're going to be working, whatever. I've never seen it happen before, and I suspect that maybe in the government, and certainly on the part of Monsieur Arsenault, that there is a certain concern that people may start to get a little more worried than they should be. Although, my God, with these headlines, they may be onto something.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, you have a great weekend. Thanks so much.
You too, buddy.
An iHeartRadio experience. Jelly Roll. Live in Quebec City at Festival d'été de Québec. Presented by Bell in collaboration with Coors Light. You could win VIP tickets for two for July 19th with flights, hotel, and $1,000 cash.
I'm wide awake and I'm dreaming.
Download iHeartRadio. Listen to CJAD 800 for 10 minutes and enter to win. Jelly Roll at FEQ. Every day you listen is another chance to win.